Well, hello, everybody. It's great to have you here tonight. I am Dotti Berry, and I'm starting this over on YouTube as well. And so I'm going to have to go over there real quick and stop it on YouTube, or we'll be hearing everything twice. So give me just 1 second. There we go. Now I'm back. But anyway, sometimes I even forget to say my name when we get on here because I'm just so excited about our guests. But I really should always do that and remind you that I am the creator of our Pickleball Forum for Women. But I say I'm not it. We are it. It's just that somebody had to start in the beginning. You had to set up the group. So I did set up the group. But this is all about you all. It's not about me. And then we started doing these happy hours because, why not? Pickleball happy hour. And sometimes people bring a glass of wine. Hey, we don't object. Your water, your Coke, whatever you do. But as you know, and if you're new, though, I want to tell you the first and third Wednesday of each month, we have Pickleball happy hour. And the first Wednesday is a pro. And the third Wednesday is one of our group experts, because we have so much talent in our group. It is unbelievable. And we're happy that any of you could attend live. But as you know, that's not always possible with all these time zones and even people in other countries. So they go and watch the recording. So this recording will be up by tomorrow, and really excited. And we're going to do something a little bit different, though. We're actually going to, record this onto YouTube, and we're going to make that public so that Jill can get as many people educated about DUPR. I cannot say strongly enough how important I feel like this is for our clubs. So I'm going to share with you why. I think that many clubs, the issues that come up are personality conflicts over ratings and who was certified to do ratings, and somebody like this person didn't like the other person. And it's just such a shame that that happens. There should be an objective way. Now, not everybody plays tournaments. So, and even that, sometimes that can get a little bit messed up. But anyway, tournaments, rec play, or whatever, everybody should have some way of objectively playing and let the rating just speak for itself. So that's why I invited Jill. And I'm also going to let you know that I am very honored and excited to let you know that Pickleball Forum for Women, well, we are now, DUPR is our official rating system that we are using with our Pickleball Forum for Women. That means when you go to events we have in the future, you're going to be able to add that in. We have tournaments. We're going to be using DUPR. So without further ado, before I actually introduce Miss Braverman here, I've got to go down to my poll because I was into a poll tonight. So let me launch this poll. And you'll have just a few minutes to answer these questions. So let me launch it, and then you can go right in and answer. There's just 3 questions. It's pretty simple. What does DUPR stand for? The first one is Done United Pickleball Rating. The second one is Dreamland Universal Pickleball Rating. And then what did Jill Braverman do before she was a Pickleball Pro? Inquiring minds want to know. You know what I'm saying? So go ahead and fill that out. And also the last one is, that should have said an objective rating system. My bad on that. So go ahead and put that in. So an objective rating system is of interest to me because you're tired of the subjective ratings. You're tired of personality-driven ratings. You're tired of a rater who isn't officially certified. And all of that happens in local groups all the time. So I'm going to see what you all put. Can you all see any of the answers? Okay, drum roll. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. Okay, can you see some of those answers now? Okay, so Jill, this can be helpful to you because some people aren't exactly sure what DUPR stands for. So we'll start off that once I introduce you. What did she do before she was a pickleball pro? Well, you know, what if all of those might be true? Anyway, an objective rating system is of interest to me because, okay, some of you are tired of the subjective ratings by the club board members. Some are tired of personality-driven ratings. Like those two were the top ones. So let me stop sharing there and go ahead and introduce Jill. Close this out. So Jill, without further ado, drum roll, let's give it up with a round of applause for Jill Braverman. How you doing tonight, Jill?
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's start off with that first one. Let's let them know what DUPR stands for. Because, you know, we had about 30-something% one way and 60-something% the other way. So let them know.
So we actually just changed the D to dynamic universal pickleball rating. So the good news is everyone was wrong.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, I love that new name, dynamic. That really captures the essence of what it is. When did you change that?
It's like 48 hours ago. So don't worry about it, Coach B. I'm not going to hold that one against you.
Oh, that's good. Because I was just on the site and I didn't see that, you know. And I guess because one of the things, I was on your LinkedIn profile and I, you know, of course I already knew it, but I was just sort of filling that in right before we started when I was like, oh my gosh, I wanted to do a poll. But you know how you get busy and then you get a little typo in there about it subjective rather than objective. But it looks like a couple of things that people don't like is when club board members are just like doling out, you know, ratings. And, you know, that doesn't feel good, or it's personality driven. Now, one of the things I think is great about DUPR is that it's the equalizer. I mean, you know, the play is objective. You just can't change that. And Jill, what I want you to really speak about is how important it is with the local groups, whether you've got an official club or not, and how do you get people to commit to doing this? I've had all kinds of questions like, well, what if I play with this local person? That, how is it gonna?
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Those are all the chatter out there. So you have to educate it.
I'm gonna share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So I'm on mydupr.com and we have a Jackie Freeman on the call today, and we have a Laurel Heilman. So I just went ahead and searched under mydupr.com. I clicked search. And I searched for Jackie, and so she's a 3.830 doubles player. If you come in here, we have 11 of her matches. Her most recent match was February 16th against with her partner Donna Hoppy against Carol Moore and Ron Bankister. And we should have all of Jackie Freeman's results in our system. And then to get even a little bit more specific, if I look and I search for Laurel, I'll see, so Laurel has one account with DUPR from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. She's 58. She's not rated, but we do have a profile for her. So what we need to do on our end is actually merge her accounts. And so then if we go to like my super secret cheat sheet and I see Laurel, I see her right here. So the average bracket she enters is a 4.0. She's played 28 matches. She's won 15. Her DUPR is a 4.381. Her average opponent's 4.16. She's won 53% of her points on average, which is actually pretty high in our system. Her most recent result is October 13th of 2021. Her average partner is a 4.35 and her half-life is a 4.5, which is based on the principle of exponential decay. It shows she's not really playing a lot. So like a really high half-life would be a 60. So we are a data and analytics company. We track all of your results and your metrics, even if you don't know we're doing it, because we receive results from over 20 different sources, other tournament management software providers, all of your USAP sanctioned results. And then we build data and analytics and a rating history for you. And what you can do with this now is have true level-based play, make pickleball more fun and fair for everyone. So it's kind of fun to go into the system and search for your name. If you haven't seen your profile, you'll see it.
Oh, that is amazing, Jill. And so now this gets back to the question of what did Jill do before she was a pickleball pro? So yeah, she was in that IT world, started her own business, and she comes from the tennis world, which, you know, let's face it, a lot of the pros have that tennis background. They're really, really good. But how did you get it? You know, I mean, what made you get excited about IT and being in that world? And how did you decide to sort of, because you've stepped back from being a pro, but playing so much and concentrating on being the CEO of DUPR. So tell us how that journey happened.
I played tennis at Pepperdine University on scholarship. I took our team from top 16 in the country, D1, to about 55 in the country. So that's my claim to fame. My sister played on scholarship there, #1 all 4 years. So I think the coach thought he was getting someone of like a similar caliber to my sister, but instead he ended up with me. But still played on scholarship there. And then when I graduated, pretty much have been in technology in one form or another, helping first-time founders, primarily females, non-technical, similar to myself, prototype, develop, and fundraise for their app ideas and their app concepts. Pretty much did that my whole career until finding universal tennis rating. And I said, well, I'm never going to work in tennis again. I don't want to work in tennis. So I took the job with UTR. And then when I left UTR, I said, I'm done with ratings. I'm never going to work in ratings. And here I am. So I'm going to be really careful what I say I don't want to do next.
Yeah, that word never, it always bites you in the butt, doesn't it? I mean, it's an interesting one. Always and never. So what did get you back into, I mean, why did you think you would never do that? And then you find yourself back in it and passionate. You know, one of the things, okay, this comes from your LinkedIn, passionate about democratizing tech in sports. Is that the real hook that gets, you know, that really pulls you in? Because as we said, part of the issues that come up in sports is the subjectivity of things rather than the objectivity of things. Yeah. So is that the driving force?
I think pickleball and growth in general is intoxicating. Like being a part of such a burgeoning sport, and it's so nascent in a lot of ways, but it's an intoxicating feeling, and being a part of a startup feels really similarly. So then you combine the two and it's a pretty addictive drug in a way. And I think technology, the power it has to democratize so much, to break down socioeconomic and geographic barriers to entry, like universal tennis rating did in tennis, is powerful. It feeds your soul. Right now in pickleball, if you want to run a large tournament, it's going to cost you $10,000. You've got to fly out a team of people. They've got to run the software that only they know how to use. And like, that's just not how we grow the sport. We grow the sport through democratizing technology, making it super easy, accessible, affordable, empowering the consumers on both sides, both the players and the organizers, to scale the sport more efficiently. And that's what we're doing at DUPR. And that's what I love about technology.
So are you saying that DUPR is going to be something that people can use to run their tournaments?
It is. We launched our tournament management software 2 weeks ago. It's completely free to get started, and it is really simple. You don't need a tournament desk. You don't need to fly anyone out.
Wow.
The people's software. Thank you. Thank you,
yeah.
Beth. Thank you.
Here's to the people. And, you know, when you're talking about this rush from being in the startup kind of environment in technology and democratizing, that's the sort of addictive nature of pickleball itself, being on the court. I like to refer to it more as fanatics, you know, of pickleball and us empowered women. But, you know, it just can bring men and women together. We don't have, just for people here in our, we're going to make this one public in the future, we don't have pickleball forum for women because we're anti-men. We have it just because there's some things that kind of apply only to women, and they can, you know, kind of ask questions in our group. And that's how the Pickleball Happy Hour for Women got started. But we think that this information is so good. And in support of democracy, we want to share this out in the world, the information that Jill's sharing, in every way that we can. So here's the thing. I want to acknowledge Carly Pinfold. She's one of our moderators of our group. She's always great about showing up. Thank you, Carly. And she answers questions, you know, or gets the questions sort of put in the chat. So make sure when you ask a question that you put question, okay? And then that allows her to more easily see that. And then she'll let us know, because I'm sure a lot of people are going, okay, I got this, but how do I get my local group on board with actually doing this? I mean, do you recommend that they have something like running round robins that people get into and then do it, or you just hang out, go play, and enter your scores? What is the process?
That's a really great question. So we have a digital club software where you can come in and create a digital club for free. So you could name it literally like Coach B's Club, and you can add all of your players to it, and you have a digital roster. So if I come in here, for instance, I'll share my screen again.
Can you screen share that? Yeah, man, y'all are adding things so fast.
Yep.
I can't even keep up with it. I'm loving this.
Yep. So this is my profile. I've got 129 matches. I can see clubs where I'm a member, my events, all of my recent matches. Lee Whitwell, you know, we had 2 match points against Andrea Coop and Georgia Johnson, but she's not here, so I won't give her a hard time about that right now. Let's move on. So if I go into clubs where I'm a member, I can browse clubs, or I can click on Carmen Sands. She's in Northern California. She just joined DUPR as a digital club the other week. So I can come in here, see all of her players. Oh yeah, so Caden's, wow, yeah, so he's high. So here are all of her players in one digital ladder, which is really cool. I mean, you print this up, you put this around your, you know, in your local community at your club, and all of a sudden ratings aren't so much a problem. There's total visibility and total fairness. And then you can come in here and run events as well. And that's the beta version of our event product that just launched. So I think the easiest way to get started is if you're more of a formal organizer, we can get you set up with the digital club on the platform, and you can start building your digital community and running events.
Right.
If you're more casual, I think there's a lot of fun things you can do around DUPR match play days, or like a challenge court. So I play with a bunch of pros in Southern California, and every now and then when we get together, we'll be like, let's just make this all a DUPR day. And we post every score to DUPR, or we say, let's play a couple warm-up games, and then let's have the last 4 games be posted to DUPR. And that's kind of fun. And if I share my screen again, y'all might know Webby from Eddie and Webby. Yeah, really love him in his videos, and he's been just a joy to work with. So he used the DUPR app to find April Spicic, if I'm saying that right, who's a 3.848 singles player, and Webby's about a 3.7 DUPR singles player. So he used the app, challenged her to a match, and recorded
Shout out to
it.
April, see if she's up for the challenge of putting.
So she says yes, and then he records the match.
Let's do this.
Wow.
And they had this like really beautiful match that was inspired from Battle of the Sexes. And this is enabled by DUPR because it's a universal scale. So it's genderless. So you get to see just how good you are compared to men who might be older or younger than you. So DUPR had April the odds of like beating him pretty badly. And then he was up like 10-2 in the first, or 10-3 in the first. And he lost the first, and then he lost the second. So his rating, because he won a lot of points against April, his rating ended up going up like 0.035 because he performed really well against a higher DUPR rated player.
Yeah, and this is so transparent. It's like, you know, you can print it out, you can post it. People can see. They're not like cherry picking. And you all know how this happens, and it's one of the most detrimental things I see happening for local groups. Marcia, you know, you have a great sign that you all have just put up. Share with Jill about your signage that you put up. This in conjunction with DUPR is a great combo, I think.
It's, broadly speaking, our code of conduct. The sign talks about fair play, goodwill, respect, and that the game is more important, or the people are more important than the game, and wins and losses kind of thing.
Yeah, and you know, so everybody likes to win. We get that. But the great thing that I think Jill was talking about also, and kind of lends itself into what y'all's sign is let's get out there. Let's have one heck of a good time. Let's go after it and let the chips fall where they may, objectively, not subjectively. And so, you know, you also get credit for, you know, like the points you did score, like he did. I mean, it wasn't just like, okay, you won, you lost, boom, that's it. And nothing more for it. So I think that's fantastic, because you can, you know, some days you can play your games and it's like 11-9, 11-8. You know, you then win one 12-10. And so it really, I think, I love this transparency though that I see with how this works. What other good stuff can you share with us, Jill? Because I'm liking the examples you're giving.
All right, so you're gonna love this. So can y'all see my screen all right?
Yes.
Okay, so if Jackie Freeman and I play against Lee Whitwell and Laurel Hyman, the odds of Laurel and Lee winning are about 65% if you look at column K.
Uh-huh.
And if we then modify the score here, so let's say Jackie and Jill win 11-6, 11-7, you can see here the rating change under column U. So Jackie's rating would go up 0.024, mine would go up 0.009, Lee's would go down 0.009, and Laurel's would go down 0.011. And so what's really cool about this isn't just that it's fun and you can go in and plug in all of you and your friends and see win probabilities. You can develop a gambling line. You can see the spread. Yeah, so all of a sudden you bring in a little bit of that golf handicap gambling element to games, and you can also then bring in even larger gambling opportunities to the sport as a whole, which the sport really needs. It needs the Ford Motor Cars sponsorship. It needs the Pepsi and the Cokes to be interested. And we need some form of gambling to enter the sport. It's going to be really hard for that to happen without DUPR.
And you know, some of the people have said, well, isn't that just for the pros, you know, like the PPA? And let's look at it realistically, you all. The pros are great, but they are a small percentage of overall pickleball. The bread and butter is in the local groups and the many people that are playing pickleball every day. And since that is such a big group, it's even more important that we have this objectivity so that we keep and retain that goodwill. I mean, raise your hand when I say this. It's one of the most fun things about coming into pickleball is how you showed up and you had fun and people were welcoming and you just got to engage out the yin yang. Raise your hand if that was fun. Yeah. And you know what I've observed happens along about the 3.5 to 4.0 range? People get into this, you know, really pick, choose, and trying to really differentiate in a negative way. Once they get to the 4.5, they don't want to play down. You know, they're like busting their butt to play up 4.5, 5.0s. But what I see in this 3.5, 4.0 range is there's such a desire to win that they will claim to be much better players, and then they will go to tournaments and play down to get their little reward, a medal. You know, I'm kind of the opposite. I play up and get my butt kicked because I'm learning. But do you know what I'm saying? I think it's important that we realize what's happening in that range some, and it can really impact a group. So I think we have to be careful with that. And I think that DUPR is a real solution. That's my opinion. Okay. I would love to hear from some of the others. If you've got questions, anybody got questions in there that Jill can answer? What do you think, Jill? What do you see out there?
Gina's got a question on what happens if someone's not rated? Like, do you self-rate to start with?
That's a great question. So let's say two people don't have a rating and they play. Is that match worthwhile? Is that data worthwhile? The answer is yes. So those two individuals will play, they'll post a score. The second one of them touches anyone with a DUPR, or anyone who's touched someone who's touched someone who's touched someone who has a DUPR, those scores from that original match will have a retroactive value assigned to them. So all the data matters. We can always look back and assign a DUPR. All it takes is one match against one DUPR rated player to get a DUPR. And then we say between 5 to 10 matches is all it takes to see super accuracy and reliability.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Gina had another question in there was how did you get that spreadsheet downloaded from DUPR? Is that a behind the scenes thing?
Oh yeah, that's a behind the scenes. But we are building that's coded in something called R, and then we're going to put like shiny R on it and then make it publicly available, and so that anyone will be able to come in and play on the head-to-head tool and see the spreads.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. Could you go in and show us what you click on to get there? And I had a feeling it was your own special thing right now. So, now that we're official and partnered with you all, we're going to have to be on the inside track and get little checks. Yeah. Okay, this just changed.
So y'all asked a little bit about sandbagging. So we do this analysis basically after every tournament. So again, we are a data and analytics company. So this was a recent tournament, I think about a couple months ago. I know it's a lot to look at, but if you bear with me for a second, I'll explain it. Column D is the skill level, so like a 4.0 bracket. Column J is the average DUPR of the medalist in the bracket. And then column M is the differential between the gold medalist's average DUPR and the bracket that they entered. So it's a question of kind of, do you hate the player or do you hate the game? Do you hate on the person that plays down, or do you hate on the fact that the software and the rating systems that exist allow them to do that? Is it their fault for using the current rules of the game to enter events where they don't belong? So whose fault is it when in reality, you kind of have to be sandbagging if you want a medal, if you want a chance at getting that, rose gold and platinum and all that good stuff. It's like the culture that's been created around tournaments is so painful. And so what ends up happening? We silo ourselves. So we go into women's 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 30, 35, 4. There's 100 plus brackets in tournaments, which makes it a nightmare to organize. It makes it not fun to play in. Let me ask you this. Do we start pickleball in a silo, only playing with our same gender and age?
Yeah. No.
So why do we
started with everybody?
Okay. And so why do we lose that when we start to compete? I think it's because we're seeking fair play, but we're going about it the wrong way by hyper siloing ourselves versus how about a rating system that works? How about tools and technology that works? How about players playing where they belong? And then all of a sudden, I don't think a man wouldn't want to play a woman, or a woman wouldn't want to play down 5 years in a bracket. I don't think that, because they'd realize, wow, this is how I started pickleball. And boy, is it fun when it's fair and level based.
Yeah. And, let me just be clear. It's not a matter of hating the people who play down. Just don't claim that you're better when you go back home. Yeah. I think that's the differential, and everybody's kind of shaking their heads because that's what we see. You claim that you're really this good. So if you really believe that, why don't you go and play at that level that you claim you are at? I don't know. It's just something to consider. And I guess what I'm saying is I think this is the solution that can handle that for people so that they really know where they fall. And I heard on one of the interviews, and we talked about this, that it's within 0.25, I think.
Thank you. I was going to mention that. So by DUPR competitiveness, we know occurs between 0.25. So a 4.0 playing a 4.25. You put a 4.0 DUPR against a 4.5 DUPR, that's a blowout. So right off the bat, the brackets are broken. The tournaments are broken right off the bat. And so people's natural question to me is, but then we have to reimagine all tournaments. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what you need to do. You're correct.
I love that. Reimagine. Can you imagine reimagining? I like that though. So we know that when you come within that 0.25, that you're going to get the good competitive matches, and that's what people are really seeking. So embrace it rather than resisting the DUPR ratings, and you'll actually get what you want, because it'll be like reimagined for you, even if you don't understand it. Is that a way to look at it too? It'll take care of itself for you.
Exactly. So if I show you one more thing, I'll share my screen again. So we did a poll to 12,000 competitive pickleball players, and we asked them, would you play more events if there were more near you? The answer, resoundingly, yes. Yes, we would. And are you happy with existing tournament management platforms? 74.6% said no, we're not. So that's organizers and players. And we had here no huge surprise. What are the three biggest issues you see with tournaments? Number one was they're not level based. Number two is they don't guarantee enough matches. And number three, they're too expensive or even cost prohibitive. And this slide to me is the most interesting. We forced people to choose one. You could only choose one. And so what format do you prefer in a tournament? And people said, whatever gets me the most fair matches, which actually surprised me in my business's ratings. I thought they were going to say, well, I just want more matches. It's not that. People want better, higher quality matches. And we saw this in tennis. When two people walk off a court in tennis, if it was a 3-set match, if it was a close match, they're going to walk off smiling. They had a good time. What we have to worry about in pickleball, and we have to use tennis as an example here of what not to do, is we have to make sure people are having good first competitive experiences, because if they don't, they're not going to return back to the sport. So right here, 78.4% of people believe tournament ratings are broken. So in tennis, 66% of first-time competitive players never go back to the sport. It's because they have a bad experience. They go 0-2. Who's ever been part of the 0-2 club? It's not a fun feeling. So why can't events be guaranteed 4 matches? You have a guaranteed window of you're going to play 8 to 11 a.m. or 12 to 3 p.m. You know exactly that you're going to be on a pod of courts 1 through 6. So you're never having to go far from your courts. You're not looking at your phone every 30 seconds waiting for a text message. And you can maybe even play 2 brackets in one day. This doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, my wheels are just turning, and I go back to, being in that 0-2. I've talked to so many people who didn't go back. I mean, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. But one of the reasons I think I am a little bit different is because I come from another sport in coaching, and I understand what it takes to move the needle and get better. And so I've just committed to that, and stayed committed in the midst of some of those same things not being okay for me either. But what were my choices, because let's face it, rec play and tournament play is like night and day. I mean, the rec player who's never played one, when they finally go to a tournament, they finally see what we're talking about. Because when you step on that court, and I mean, it's game time, it's not shooting around in the gym, you know what I'm saying? It's a national championship or something. And you got to be there, be present. And that serve can go crazy. That, anything can happen. If you have that bad day with a rec game, you just go home and go, oh, well, go back tomorrow. So, I think it's just bringing up a lot of things that can really help move the needle in a lot of ways. So what questions have we got there, Carly?
This is from Marcia. Are any of the current tournaments set up according to DUPR? Like, what tournaments are actually using DUPR right now?
That's a great question. So we're the official rating of the PPA Tour, and we have been in good discussions with other large tournament providers and organizers. And then, of course, now you can run DUPR events. And something I'm really proud of is the massive community response from the clubs and local associations adopting DUPR as their official rating system. So a shining example of this is Lucky Shots in Minneapolis, Minnesota. they are running sold out DUPR match play nights. So it's bring out the whole family, like literally kids, parents, grandparents come out, they all play in the same event because it's run by DUPR. Now they might be on different courts. And all scores count towards DUPR, and it's super fun. They, eat together afterwards and laugh a ton. And so I'm, again, really proud of the club adoption. Club Corps has come on. The Pickler in Utah has been a really great adopter of the platform. Kings Court, Utah, bunch of clubs in Florida, Missouri Pickleball Club, the largest indoor club, Legacy at Ryan Treffery's facility in Arizona. So if you're playing any of those club events, those will all be by DUPR.
And here's the other great thing we were talking about earlier. You just got off talking to Pickleball Australia and Brazil. And so, in the future, this won't be tomorrow, but if you went somewhere internationally, if somebody had a DUPR score and you have a DUPR score, you really know you're going to go there and have a good game, rather than somebody going, oh, I'm like an advanced or I'm an intermediate. And, that's just like all over the map. And you go there, you spend a couple of hours, you meet some nice people. I'm not saying that, but it's just not what you wanted or what you were looking for. And what if you knew that you could go there and find somebody within 0.25 and you were just going to have these awesome matches, and then you go out and have some fun afterwards? Does that sound good to you all? Raise your hand if you think that sounds like a hell of a good time. I think it's awesome. Yeah.
No, Dotti,
what
you're
other nugget?
Right.
Yeah, what other nuggets can you share with us, Jill? We want it all. We're gonna, just really pick your brain.
Well, we are now the official rating system of Brazil and official tournament management software of Brazil. The international response has been really amazing. I think it's really interesting. I was just talking to just such a smart, strong female pickleball player who heads up the Australian Pickleball Federation. We just had a nice kind of discovery call. And we were talking about, wouldn't it be cool to bring a pickleball night in America, which is right now in America, but to Australia? And I think that there's demand. Like, I'm genuinely curious and can't wait for the day we actually publish a DUPR top 50 list and it's half international. Like, that's close, right? Because we're getting all of these result data from international countries right now. They're sending it to us. We clean it up and then we send back DUPRs.
Wow.
And all it takes is one piece of connectivity, one player who's ever played anyone in that country who has a DUPR. And thank goodness pickleball players are obsessed and they travel a lot. So we do have a lot of connectivity.
Hey, let's talk about the pros for a minute, because, we all love watching the pro tournaments. And tell me how DUPR is impacting the pro tour.
That's a great question. I think it's democratizing it. I think that, you have these rather siloed tours. You've got the APP and the PPA. And how are you supposed to really understand who the top players are? Mm-hmm. If one plays on a PPA tour and has a PPA ranking and the other's number one in the APP. So a good example of this is J.W. Johnson, who I believe 4 weeks ago surpassed Ben Johns as number one in the world in singles by DUPR, because I'm looking at both tours results. I'm looking at results that include Major League Pickleball. I'm looking at all professional results, and we're able to determine really where people rank in the world by DUPR, this objective system. I think DUPR's had a major impact with Major League Pickleball, our sister company. So the draft will be done mainly by DUPR. So looking again at the top players in the world and drafting by DUPR. And then what is so impactful is, imagine a world where now there's college scholarships, where there's a pathway to pro. And if that is all done by DUPR, a kid can get their DUPR up in their backyard. They don't have to go travel and compete in like expensive sanctioned tournaments. This was another problem that tennis had. Probably a lot of tennis players on this call, if there are, that earning your USTA ranking point and having children playing USTA tournaments, it's a very arduous process. It's very cost prohibitive. And then UTR came along and said, well, just go play in your backyard and play against different genders, play against different ages. All those scores can count. And so what's happened, tennis for the first time in 20 plus years is seeing an increase in participation I think USTA likes to raise its hand and say, that's because of us. In reality, it's because of this objective rating system that built a bunch of cool event tools and technologies around it. It's because of UTR.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know what I like, what you were talking, just kind of going back to the PPA and the APP, you know, it's like the us and them, depending on which group you were in favor of, which is not conducive to growing the sport and having goodwill and cheer in pickleball, which is why we all got into it. So this is democratizing, you know, that situation, so that you don't have to feel like, oh, I've got to speak up for PPA, I've got to speak up for APP, and one is better. And if you're with this group, it just really takes that away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
what do you think is going to happen because of all that? What's the future, Jill?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think as DUPR, we're a unifying objective rating system. We want to help both tours. We want to help the governing body. We want to help any international federation. You guys might not know this, but I believe 8 or 9 of the international countries recently left the governing body, the IFP, and now they're trying to figure out what's the next steps forward. So part of what they say is, I want to unify the game. I love that. That's our motto, is actually innovate the game, unify the sport. So I think that something will have to give. I don't think to professional tours plus Major League Pickleball, right? Which is its own amazing concept. I don't think there's room for everyone. And I think it'll be a very interesting next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it reminds me of when I was in basketball and we had the ADL, and then the WNBA saw an opportunity, you know, of empty coliseums in the summer and said, let's put the women in there. And so all of a sudden they were rating that, you know, I mean, it's just an inevitable thing that happens. One makes it and one usually doesn't. And we don't know always what's going to happen with that. But I hope that it can be just that DUPR can be that positive force that helps pave the way. And yeah.
Well, right now we're working with everyone, so hopefully it stays that way. I'd love to see a world where, you know, my founder Steve Kuhn and I, we don't believe the world is a zero-sum system. There are win-wins. Yeah. And I would love nothing more than to see a win-win. I think if it continues down this current trajectory, something's got to give, someone has to lose, but that doesn't mean things can't change, partnerships can't be forged, negotiations can't occur. I think there's been olive branches on sides, and I hope to see a win-win, because again, I don't believe the world's a zero-sum system. Our rating is, but the world isn't.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I just think there's a lot of opportunity here for the local groups, going back to that, which, you know, just because that's the majority and that's what touches most of us. Most of us aren't at that pro level. And in all likelihood, you know, maybe some of you on here are going to reach that pro level. I don't know. That's probably not in my future that I see right now. But I know that I'm continuing to improve, and that's what I'm enjoying. I do love to have good competitive matches, and I want to bring that. I want to bring that into our local groups more, where you're playing different people and letting it shake out, so to say. So let's give an example. Let's say you're just getting with a group of people one day that are variety of gender, skills, you know, the whole thing. And everybody has a DUPR account. Can you get out there on the court, record those scores, and have whatever happened with it? How does that, I mean, I think these are the questions that some people have. Do you do that kind of thing and enter those scores, or do you just say, oh, forget that, that's not a DUPR match?
So that's a great question. So we're evaluating the post to score process right now. We're going to make some optimizations to it. And part of that is surveying our top 300 players who post the most frequently, and then surveying the people who've posted a couple times and then never posted again. Because before we go and we retool and re-architect the whole process to make it simpler, why don't we try and understand what the feedback is around it? And I'm waiting for the results. I think we're going to analyze them tomorrow. We sent them out to a few more people, but I think there's an etiquette that needs to be better explained, because I
Okay.
hear a lot anecdotally about people who go to post a score and then they're upset that it was never validated by an opponent, but they had never agreed to post the score prior to the match. So I always say, hey, look everyone in the eye, ask if it's cool if this match counts for DUPR. And what's fun is when everyone says yes, it ratchets up the adrenaline. You get to practice like you play in a tournament. And if we want to get better at tournaments, and Webby talks about this in his video, he goes, the night before I played April in singles, I went to bed with butterflies in my stomach. I like that feeling. I missed that feeling. It's been so long since I've played a tournament. This was so cool for me. Like I ate a certain way the night before, I woke up early, I stretched, and I went out and had butterflies. And I think if we could do more of that and practice like we play, we would all be better tournament players.
Yeah, and we would just be having more fun, because let's face it, when we perform well, whether the end is the loss or the win, like you say, when you walk off the court and I know, wow, that was a great match, I can feel good about it.
Yep.
And so it just sort of ups the level for us personally, which is really what we're after. Yeah, I like that. So any other questions that we've got right now from Jill?
Michelle?
Okay. Yeah, let me go over here, because Carly was going to have to leave, and maybe she had to go ahead. Gotta go. That's what she said. When I didn't see Carly anymore, I tell you what I'm going to do, so I don't have to just sit and look at the chat, because, I kind of got to run things here. I want you to unmute yourself if you have a question, and let's hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Jill. First of all, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I do appreciate this. And I do have a question. I am brand new to DUPR. I just joined last week, and prior to that, I was in Camden, South Carolina, playing in a tournament, and it wasn't PPA, no names mentioned. I also got my butt handed to me, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But I decided to enter my scores into DUPR from the tournament. And what I found was the majority of the people were not. My partner is a member of DUPR as well, but the majority of the people were not that I played. So I had to send them an invite. So I invited them. And so I'm just going to address the big elephant in the room. Dottie's going to kill me afterwards. Several of them ambassadors. This is a free talk, right? We can talk freely on here. Several of them are ambassadors. And when I privately asked them why they refused to verify it, they were told that as ambassadors, they weren't supposed to be part of DUPR. So can anybody shed a light on that, please?
Oh, that's too bad. Anytime somebody tells me I can't be a part, I'm all into the democratization. I'm like Jill. So Jill, shed some light.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. First, I have a question for you. You shouldn't have to ever input your tournament results, because we aggregate the data for you. So I can ask you offline what this tournament was. If for whatever reason we didn't capture that, we can go back in time and recapture it.
It was the APP South Carolina Open. So
yeah, no, so that should already be in the system, so
I'm most likely doing something wrong, but the disturbing part about that is 4 of my opponents were ambassadors and they refused to do DUPR.
What's your I just want to look at this real fast. Michelle, what's your last name?
Lipscomb, Lipscomb.
Okay, so
I'm going over, while you're doing that, I want to put in my DUPR in the chat box, okay? Because I want to make sure, I put it in the emails and all.
So real fast, Michelle, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can. Yes.
So it looks like we do have your APP results in here already. So they're not.
Those are the ones that I added those. And that's not, I added the ones from Pat and Katie, and then the other ones from another tournament that I was in. So, some of the ones that don't have little pictures by themselves are no longer, I don't want to name names, but because they're ambassadors, they opted not to verify, but it looks like it's in there. Maybe my question was on this one.
I'm going to double check this, but it looks like we have the results from the direct line that we have.
Okay,
the
all righty.
Tournament results, so they won't have a choice whether they want those in or not. So if
Okay, good. Well, I'm
yeah,
glad then. Okay, I'm glad.
So that's number
So-
one. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't.
Okay, so when
And
I'm
then
playing,
number two is regarding the ambassador comment. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. A USA pickleball ambassador or?
right, USA
Yeah,
Pickleball Ambassador.
Well, I can say that all the interactions that I've had with USA Pickleball have been very positive. I'm very enthused and optimistic by their new leadership team. And yeah, we've had positive conversations with their ratings committee, positive conversations with other entities there. So yeah, I
Okay.
hope that messaging.
I will be adding the rest of my games on tonight then, and then it'll be up to them to explain it then from there on out. I was respecting their decision not to be part of this because I thought maybe it was something I just didn't.
I think maybe too. I don't know if there's an ability to read between the lines here. I don't. Maybe they're just scared to have those scores public, and they're trying to point towards like an official designation or capacity. Like I don't know. I'd read between the lines there because I think that smells a little funny. But either way, you shouldn't have to again input any tournament results. So we should do that for you, so we can talk.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
very
so
good.
I think what you're saying, Michelle, it keeps you from having to convince anybody to do it. Because if you play a tournament, it's going to be in DUPR, period.
Okay, great.
It's going to show up. Rec
Right.
game, things we play in the communities, and that's a little bit different. You do have to look each other in the eye and say, okay, this is a DUPR
good.
game. And you just hold each other accountable. You play the game and then they say, I don't want to put that in. You just, hey, come on, we agreed to, let's do it. But
Okay.
the tournaments are going to be in there. So I'm glad you got that
Very
answered
good.
in there, and you
Yes,
don't have
I
to
do.
worry about that.
And I will be at PPA this weekend, and so I will have those scores in there as well then.
Yeah, you don't have
And
to do anything.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
okay,
I'm glad
good.
you
Thank you.
said what you said, Jill, and thank you, Michelle, because I think it's really great that we as ambassadors, part of our role is to support pickleball, period. We're supposed to include and invite and not demonize and this and that. And so, let's do that. Let's really step up and do what we're supposed to do, which is just unite. So thank you, Michelle, for doing what you're doing. Appreciate that.
Causing
All right,
trouble.
back to you. Oh, who else has questions here? Anybody else? I know somebody, if you want to unmute yourself, we'll be glad to hear them. I'm kind of scrolling along here and Carly's usually taking care of this. So Jill, let me ask you this, Jill. Usually we say in our happy hours, tell us something that nobody else knows about you. So maybe to save you in that way, since this one's not just going to stay in our pickleball happy hour and we're going to make this public for other people, you could also say, tell us something about DUPR that nobody else knows. I mean, maybe you can't say that, but give us some exciting things that you see coming up.
Oh, this is such a bummer. Yesterday, I thought of something that no one else knew about me, and then I forgot it. And I'm not kidding.
Oh,
I should tell someone that one. And I forgot. Look, I have to have a sip of bourbon. I saved this for the end. Cheers, lady.
Oh, well, good. Go for it,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we usually like to ask that because, I mean, Lucy Kovalova ended up sharing with us about being a ballroom dancer early on. She was going to be a professional ballroom dancer. And it was such a neat story, and people just didn't know that. So we get to know people in a different way.
All right, let me think. Kristen's on this call. She might know something.
Oh, Kristen, give it up. Tell us something.
Oh man, you put me on the spot now.
What's something no one knows about me?
Well, it's impossible for me to answer because if I know it and someone knows it, but I would say one of the things Jill doesn't like to perhaps lead with is that there is one sport that she is better at than pickleball or tennis.
Whoa. Okay.
And that is ping pong. But she may actually be better at pickleball, but she has taken down some pretty large names in ping pong at some pretty fun extravaganzas. And it too has its lending to being genderless and ageless, and has been a lot of fun for me to watch, considering I'm so horrible at ping pong.
Well, sometimes only your wife knows for sure. You know, the real story behind things. So
Yes,
anyway.
I have to race her down the ski slopes just to pretend I'm better at one thing.
That's great. Well, thanks for being on, Kristen. I know that you're also a part of DUPR. You're a golf pro, and tell us what your role is with DUPR while we've got you here.
Essentially marketing. So most of the stuff you see on our social channels comes in one way or another from myself and my right-hand woman, Lindsay. But I consider myself sort of a deadly combination of happening to be in the room where a lot of DUPR conversations happen. So I might as well put it to use. And I kind of tie in our data team with our social channels so that there's a sort of connection between the higher ups of Jill's brain power and what we communicate to the world.
She's won more pickleball medals than I have.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah, she's coming on strong, I hear. I want to see y'all teamed up against, I don't know, me and somebody else, but you know, maybe Jill, Kristen, maybe I'll play with you and then we'll get somebody on the other side and we'll have a great, what is that? The mixed age and skill?
Split age.
Split age. That's what DUPR's about.
Yeah, no, I love it. Hey, one more question for you, Jill, before we go. And thank you, Kristen, so much. I love what you're doing and how you're contributing. It's really fantastic. Y'all make an amazing team. Yeah. But I want to ask you about Anna Bright, because Anna Bright is going to be our interview the first Wednesday of June. So get excited about that. And what I found out is that she is with DUPR. So fill me in on her role with DUPR, Jill.
Yeah, Anna works full-time with DUPR. She is a badass. I think that's like the phrase that comes to mind. She is win at all costs, but graceful and positive and energetic. And when, you know, she speaks, customers listen. And so she's a pleasure to have on the team. She's been crushing it. She has dual degrees from Berkeley. She was an NCAA All-American. She's got a data and a data science background and analytics. She's just a rock star. We joke when we introduce her on calls that like we're going to be working for her in like 60 days. So
yeah, well, I guess she's the E.F. Hutton of pickleball or something like that. I mean, you know, it sounds like she really gets the ear of people. Yeah,
unfortunately, this kind of tragic thing happened where I got the most recent ratings, and I'll show you what happened real fast. You guys might. Okay. It's funny. And this is when I knew it was the right time for me to retire. So if I go to our top females in the sport by DUPR, and I come down here and you see Jill Braverman, this happened last week. Anna Bright surpassed me by one. So.
Oh my goodness.
I have
you know it's over.
Yeah.
Jill, just stick with your rec play. Yeah. Come on up to Birch Bay, Washington. You know, we'll have some fun. No.
So I told the team, I'm like, don't put these in. These look awful. Something's wrong. Go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. It's you know, it's tough when what you've developed exposes you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
cognitive
that's
dissonance.
when you know this is a good place to end. That's when you know it's transparent, it's real, and that's why we get on the pickleball happy hour. And we don't. Jill knows we don't send questions ahead of time. We don't want canned answers. We want to roll with it. That's why our group loves what we do. And again, it's not about me. It's about us. We together are creating a great group. And we want to invite other women to join in with our group because I think we've got something special going. And I'm looking forward to coming down there with you and Kristen. Y'all made the mistake of saying I could come and stay with you when I'm in Palm Springs. So, you know, I'm gonna take you up on it. They'll say, She's like, fish, how can we get rid of her? Oh, few days. No.
Fluffing
But
your
we'll have-
pillows as we speak.
Yeah. We'll have we'll have some fun though. Well, listen, thanks again, Kristen. Thanks again, Jill. We really appreciate you being here. But most of all, thanks to you all, because you know what? If you don't show up, they don't have anybody to really talk to and explain about DUPR. You are the reason that they're here. So let's spread the word. I'm going to post this actually in our Pickleball Forum for Women as well. And I'm going to give Jill and Kristen a copy of it, and we'll make this one public. We don't usually, just because, you know, our little special happy hours are how it's like our dangling carrot to get people to come and sign up for our Pickleball happy hour. But maybe they'll see this one and say, man, they're doing some cool things. We've got to get in on the rest of the interviews. So thanks again to everybody, and y'all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I'm going to go over here and stop all of these recordings, okay?
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Bye for now.